Bit early. Good morning, boys and germs. Welcome to the Daily Crack. Just going to adjust my camera so you got the perfect view of me. Hope you're all well this morning, wherever the fuck you are in the world. And getting jacked. That seems to be the theme of my videos this week. Building muscle, getting jacked. And if that is something that you're interested in hearing about, stay on the video, because we're going to be talking about a little bit about the nutritional side of fucking building muscle. Simple as. So I've spoke about time under tension. I've spoke about not overtraining. Don't worry about missing a day, like looking at the bigger picture of your whole training cycle or training program. Now today I'm going to talk a little bit about the food that goes into making sure you make quality gains. And I'm not a nutritionist by any stretch of the means. Morning, Mel, what's the story? However, I've been doing this shit, fitness, for a long time. And I do understand that two of the most important things in helping anyone reach their fitness goals is, number one, sleeping. And I use my whoop strap to look after that and track that. And number two, eating correctly. Now, I'm all you see and all you can eat dieteer, which means I don't eliminate anything from my diet. I grew up in the west of Ireland, and what was put on your plate, you ate, and you didn't fucking question it. I would have a glass of milk with dinner. I would eat spuds with nearly every meal. There'd be cabbage, there'd be bacon, there'd be steak, there'd be carrots, there'd be onions, there'd be parsnips. A lot of the food I ate was grown in the garden out the back. A lot of the animals I consumed were on the farm that I grew up on. They came from the farm. I remember going down with the old lad, paring the sheep's feet during the winter time, and myself and my sister, we'd get to pick one, we'd get to name one. But there was no issue when it came to bringing that sheep, Dolly. Well, the Dolly was the one that they cloned, wasn't it? But I think I called one Daisy. I don't know the fuck. I can't fucking remember. But I had no qualms understanding that when Dolly went to the abattoir, Dolly was the one that was the chops on my plate. That was just a fact of life. That was just what happened. I never felt bad about it. It's just, it is what it is. Hence, I'm not vegan. So I just got used to eating food, and nothing was off limits. And a good old saying that we had when we were growing up, or my owl used to hear me out saying, it was, hunger was great sauce. And after working a solid day out in the farm, in the fields and whatnot, you would be hungry. So you didn't question what food you ate. And the point I'm trying to make is, there was zero restriction on food. There was no removing carbohydrates. There was no reduction in fat. We ate Kerrygold butter, which is some of the best butter in the world. Full fat, fucking creamy, dairy goodness. We had full fat milk. The fat wasn't taken off the meat. All the vegetables under the sun would have been consumed at some stage. As I said, a lot was grown in the garden that we had out the back of the house. My old lady would, on a Friday evening, buy a Black Forest Gatto, and that would be dessert. There was no kind of, that shouldn't be eaten or this shouldn't be eaten. It was just what was put in front of you was fucking good food, and you consumed it. Simple as. You had your breakfast, lunch. Breakfast, a fry, eggs, rashers, sausages, bacon, the whole time, as long as I can remember. Always. I remember the old lad would wake me up in the morning, how many sausages do you want? I'd fucking have two this morning and 2 pieces of bacon. As I grew older, the more I consumed. So the point I'm making is, you can eat anything you want. You just eat the right portions. And there's no problem. No problem. You'll get whatever results you want. You want to lose some fat? Slight calorie deficit. You want to build muscle? Slight calorie surplus. You're putting on fat, you're in too much of a surplus. Simples. But anyway, When it comes to building muscle, I think a big misconception is protein is what builds muscle. So it helps, but it's not the only thing that the muscle uses for size to get bigger. And let me do my best to explain this without getting too sciencey, because I'm not a scientist either. I'm a fucking a Neanderthal from the west of Ireland that has a gym here in Australia, and I like lifting weights. Simple as. Anyway, let's go into this. So, protein. When you consume protein, it breaks down to amino acids, and our body uses amino acids to build and repair shit that's broken. So that might be muscle fiber, that might be organ tissue, it might help even regenerate your liver, it might help your hair to grow, it might help your nails to grow. You know, these are the things that we use protein for. Protein isn't only used for muscle building. Protein is an essential for our body to grow. Now, we also consume carbohydrates. Carbohydrates in the muscle cells themselves, so if we were to zoom down into a muscle fiber, in the nucleus of the muscle cells, you contain a lot of protein amino acids, but you also contain a huge amount of glycogen, which is sugar, which is carbohydrate, that is stored in the muscle fiber as well. And your muscle fiber uses glycogen and creatine to contract, to get shorter, okay? Now, when you contract your muscles from training and stuff like that, we do that under load. So the more stress and strain and the more progressive overload we put on the muscle, the more glycogen we require, the more sugar we require to create the contraction. So if we do this on a continuous basis, which would be your training at a gym, you're requiring your body to store and use more glycogen. So the cell size gets bigger. So this is one other element of muscle growth that probably isn't spoke about, or it should be spoke. Well, it is spoke about. What am I saying? It's out there. This knowledge is there. But this is me just kind of reinforcing why your muscle gets bigger. Because your muscle is also a big store for energy. Glycogen. I don't know why I use those things. So yes, you use protein and you use carbohydrate in the muscle fiber. Now, fats. There's also fat in those nucleuses as well. Because why does our body mainly need fats, and why do we mainly consume fats? Well, fat in our body helps us in the production of hormones. All right? If you are a male, and also if you are a female, and you are trying to build muscle, testosterone, my words this morning, I apologize, it's been a big week. Testosterone and estrogen are important muscles for you, or important hormones for you to build muscle, whether you're male or female. We need fat in our system to help us produce and keep our hormones in balance. So, eating a complex dietary spectrum of things is hugely important to build muscle. So don't just rely solely on proteins. Make sure when you look at your plate, there's a little bit of everything in every meal. There will be times that you'll have more a carb meal, and that's normally when you come out of the pub and you're looking for a curry cheese chips. That's absolutely fine. That has to be done. Or maybe over here in Australia, the common thing is a kebab. So that's kind of more protein. But it is what it is. There will be certain meals where there'll be a little bit more of something than the other, and that's fine. That's absolutely grand. But if you are on a muscle building cycle, or you are even trying to lose some body fat, understand that making sure you get enough protein, enough carbohydrate, and enough fat is essential. Just keep shit balanced. It works itself out. It works itself out. You can get super specific the further you go down the rabbit hole with your goals and really dial things in. On certain days, you're going to have more carbohydrate. On certain days, you're going to have more protein. And this really comes down to the individual and understanding the way your body responds to certain foods and how you train. I know for myself, my background, Irish, carbohydrate was a huge one. Potatoes were a huge one for me. So I know I work well, extremely well on carbohydrates. So when I'm training and before I'm training, I'm making sure I'm souping up on the amount of carbohydrate or the amount of spud I consume. If you are Asian and you grow up maybe in an Asian country or in an Asian household, white rice would be a staple to you and you would operate quite well on this. So I've said this in a video before. If you're wondering what sort of diet is going to work best for you, think back to when you were younger. What were you reared on? That's probably the diet that's going to work best for you. Don't put a name on it. Don't call it vegan. Don't call it keto. Don't call it paleo. Don't call it Atkins. Don't call it Jenny Craig. Call it the diet you were reared on. That is the best way, or that is the easiest way to know what you should be consuming. It's as simple as that. Okay? Keep on the journey. Keep focusing on building your muscle. Keep consuming. This stuff is all about being consistent, eating the same thing over and over again. If anyone follows my stories and you see when I do my meal prep, and if you've been following me for any length of time, mince and rice every fucking week for the last 7-8 years. It just remains the same. Spuds and steak at the end of the day, smoothies with plenty of Greek yogurt and fucking oats, and in the morning, porridge or eggs and bacon. It stays the same. And I put loads of fucking spinach in me smoothies as well for all the vitamins and minerals. Alright boys and germs, that's the daily crack for today. Keep building muscle. Remember, there's more than just protein that goes into building muscle. So don't get stuck on just the protein shakes. It's real food that builds muscle. Real fucking food. Eat steak. That's the best sort of fucking protein that you'll ever get. All the fucking B12 and amino acids that contains. That is your ultimate fucking steroid right there. Red meat. Giddy up!